The ocean, at night, does not fall silent. It softens. Its sounds stretch out long and slow, like the gentle exhale of a world preparing for rest. Waves hush themselves into steady rhythms. Distant currents hum beneath the surface. And somewhere in that soft, endless blue, a pod of dolphins moves as though the sea itself is breathing them forward. Tonight, we drift into their world, a world where life is not rushed, not cluttered, not pulled in 1,000 directions. Instead, it flows, smoothly, quietly, simply. Welcome to Sleepy Nature Sleep, where the wild grows soft and curiosity becomes calm. Tonight, let your thoughts follow the rhythm of the earth, your breathing settle like evening wind, and your mind wander gently through the quiet wild. Here, nothing hurries, nothing demands. The ocean invites you to move the way dolphins do. Effortlessly, without strain, without the weight of too many thoughts. Just drifting, noticing, belonging. As we begin this slow and gentle journey, consider this. The life of a dolphin is not just elegant because of the water around it, but because of the simplicity within it. They rise, breathe, glide, rest, and play in patterns shaped by tides older than memory. They share warmth in their pods, navigate by sound rather than sight, and trust in the deep intelligence of staying present. If you've arrived here carrying thoughts from the day, tasks unfinished, words left hanging, moments that tug a little too tightly, let them loosen for now. Let them float somewhere far beyond the shoreline. Here, within this cinematic quiet, we travel at the ocean's pace. If these soft journeys into the wild bring you comfort, clarity, or just a peaceful way to end your day, you're welcome to join our growing Sleepy Nature Sleep community. Your presence helps this gentle corner of the internet stay alive, a place where nature becomes a bridge to rest, and rest becomes a way of coming home to yourself. And if you ever feel like supporting these calm explorations by liking, subscribing, or sharing a quiet thought in the comments, it truly helps keep the tide moving. But there is no pressure here, only invitation, only softness. So now, let us slip a little deeper into the night, where moonlight touches the water in pale ribbons, and dolphins rise to breathe beneath a sky that has waited all evening to welcome them. Tonight, we learn from them, not through speed or spectacle, but through the quiet, shimmering simplicity of their lives. Here begins our story. A slow dive into the gentle world beneath the waves. Every nature story begins with a question, though most of them drift quietly beneath the surface, waiting for someone patient enough to hear them. Tonight, our question moves like a soft current beneath the waves. What do dolphins remember about living simply? Something the human world seems to have forgotten. It is a question carried not in words, but in the rhythm of their lives. A rhythm without urgency. A rhythm shaped not by clocks or calendars, but by tides, warmth, companionship, and the slow, ancient breathing of the sea. If you listen closely, you might feel the question echo somewhere inside you, a gentle tug like the pull of the tide on a shoreline. It is not demanding. It does not rush to be answered. It simply asks whether the life you carry has room for simplicity, for softness, for the spaciousness that dolphins never lost. Imagine the ocean at this moment. Above, the sky loosens into twilight, smearing pale lavender across the horizon. Below, a drifting world of blue opens quietly as light dims and shadows lengthen. And somewhere within that stillness, a pod of dolphins glides through the fading day, unhurried in every motion. They are not concerned with the next destination. They are not calculating the hours they have left. They are simply moving, breathing, listening, responding to the shifts of water around them. For dolphins, each moment is complete because it is exactly what it needs to be. Perhaps the real question then is not what they remember, but what we have overlooked. As you settle deeper into this journey, allow the question to soften. Let it drift through your thoughts like a ripple, shaping the edges of your awareness without needing to be solved. Nature's wisdom rarely arrives in the form of answers. More often, it takes the shape of a feeling, a steadying, a clarifying, a returning. Here, in this quiet moment, the question simply asks you to rest, to breathe slowly, to allow the ocean to move at its natural pace without trying to pull you faster. Tonight, the dolphins will guide us not with urgency, but with calm. Their simple lives unfold gently, rising to breathe, gathering in pods, singing through the deep, finding joy in small glimmers of sunlight dancing on the surface. And through watching them, we may find traces of our own simplicity returning, the part of us that remembers how to move without rushing. So hold this question lightly as we continue. What might your life feel like if it followed the water's rhythm instead of the world's demands? The dolphins swim ahead, and the night deepens around us, ready to show what simplicity looks like when lived without fear. Before we descend into details, the behaviors, the sounds, the hidden rhythms, we pause to take in the landscape. This wide, wandering ocean that holds so many stories begins like a breath, expanding, softening, welcoming the quiet traveler who approaches with calm curiosity. Picture the water at dusk. The sun has slipped beneath the horizon, leaving a slow-burning trail of amber across the surface. The waves, once shimmering with daylight, now glow with deeper tones, indigo, slate blue, and a soft wash of silver from the rising moon. It is here, in these shifting shades, that dolphins weave their simple lives. Their world is built not from objects or tasks, but from elements older than history. Currents that carry warmth from the equator, underwater canyons that hum with deep resonance, reefs that become nurseries for life. Everything exists in motion, never static, never rigid. And yet paradoxically, the ocean always feels like a place of rest. As we drift further from the coast, the sounds soften. The crash of shore waves fades into a low, continuous sigh. Water presses gently around us, cool but comforting, as though the sea itself is cupping its hands around the moment. This is the landscape the dolphins know intimately, not from observation, but from belonging. In the distance, you might imagine the silhouette of a pod rising together in near-perfect unison. Their bodies cut through the surface with such ease that it seems the water is parting out of respect. Even their exhalations, small, misty bursts into the night air, dissolve almost instantly back into quiet. This landscape shapes their lives in every way. It teaches them to move with fluidity rather than force. It encourages them to turn play into communication, rest into shared protection, and travel into a slow drifting that feels almost meditative. Here, simplicity is not a choice, but a natural result of living where nothing can be held tightly. Not sound, not light, not even time. As you breathe in this watery stillness, your own thoughts may begin to slow. Edges soften. there is no need to know what comes next. Like the dolphins, we move at the pace of the waves, letting the vastness of this blue world ease our minds into a quiet, steady rhythm. This is the landscape before us, gentle, expansive, endlessly patient, and within it lies a life that shows us how simple living can be when one moves with the world rather than against it. The dolphins are just ahead, waiting. To understand dolphins, you must begin with their breath. Unlike fish, dolphins do not draw oxygen from the water. They are mammals and must rise to the surface just as we do, to inhale the sky and exhale the sea. And yet, they do this without ever disturbing the calmness of their world. Their surfacing is not a gasp, but a gesture, a quiet merging of two realms. Tonight, imagine a single dolphin rising through a column of pale blue water. Its body moves with the softness of silk drifting through air. Light scatters along its back, painting shifting patterns that look almost like reflections of clouds. As the dolphin approaches the surface, everything slows. The water thickens around it. The sounds dim. The moment stretches. Then, a breath, a gentle whoosh, a small plume of mist, a silent acceptance of the sky. And just as easily, the dolphin slips back below. This ritual has been repeated countless times across millions of years, and yet each surfacing feels like something sacred, a reminder that life often takes place in the quiet spaces between one world and the next. For dolphins, breathing is not an interruption of their journey, it is part of their rhythm. They rise naturally, without haste, pausing for only a heartbeat before vanishing again into the blue. If the ocean teaches them anything, it is that life can be lived in cycles rather than straight lines, inhales and exhales, effort and ease, rising and sinking, doing and resting. You might notice how different this is from the human way. Our breaths often come tangled with thoughts, our pauses filled with urgency. But dolphins breathe with total presence, as if each moment of surfacing is enough on its own. In this part of our journey, let their breath guide your own. Slow, unforced, gentle. Each inhale becomes a soft surfacing. Each exhale a return to the quiet below. As the dolphin drifts downward again, the water seems to welcome it home. Sound deepens into muffled tones. Light blurs into soft gradients of blue, and the world becomes quieter than thought. This descent is not a retreat, but a continuation. A reminder that living simply means moving in and out of moments without clinging to either. The breath between worlds belongs to all of us. Tonight, let it be your anchor as we swim gently onward. If dolphins are known for anything, it is their play. The spirals through shimmering water, the leaps into fading sunlight, the gentle nudges exchanged between companions. To an outside observer, these moments look like joy, and they are. But for dolphins, play is also communication, learning, and connection. Tonight, imagine the ocean lit with the last glow of dusk. The water's surface reflects streaks of lavender and rose gold. Beneath it, a group of young dolphins gathers in loose formation, energy rising like tiny bubbles around them. One dolphin turns on its side, brushing another with a soft flick of its fin. A third swoops in, weaving between them in a graceful arc. Nothing about this scene is hurried, nothing is forced. Play for dolphins unfolds the way tides do, naturally, rhythmically, and without expectation. Scientists have long observed that dolphin play strengthens social bonds and teaches essential survival skills. But there is something gentler happening beneath the scientific explanations, a sense of joy that is not tied to achievement. Dolphins do not play to win, they play to connect. In the human world, play often grows dim under the weight of schedules, responsibilities, and the belief that productivity defines worth. But dolphins show us another way, a life in which laughter, motion, and shared moments are valuable simply because they make the world feel lighter. Watch now as one dolphin dives deep before rising in a burst of motion, breaking the surface in a smooth arc that sends droplets scattering into the evening air. The splash is soft, almost musical. The pod responds with whistles that ripple like underwater laughter. Their movements are improvisations, small poems written in water. Each twist and turn is a reminder that life's simplest joys often require the least effort. As you listen to this gentle scene, notice the warmth that play introduces into the quiet of the night. Even here, in a documentary meant to soothe, joy has its place. Not loud, not chaotic, but soft and flowing, like currents around a coral reef. If you feel your chest loosen or your thoughts soften, that is the ocean reminding you of something you once knew. That play is a form of rest too, a way of reconnecting with the world not through tasks, but through presence. The dolphins drift onward, calmer now, their energy settling into the night. Their playful spirals fade into slow, steady glides, and the ocean deepens again into quiet. Ahead, the darkness grows bluer, softer, inviting us further in. Long before human ships crossed the sea, before compasses or maps or satellites, dolphins knew how to move through the ocean with remarkable precision. They do not rely on sight, not in the vast, shifting blue where light disappears after only a few dozen meters. Instead, they navigate with sound, weaving their world from echoes. Imagine drifting through deepening water at night. Around you, the color fades from turquoise to indigo to something darker still. Visibility narrows, shapes blur, and the water grows thicker with quiet. Yet to a dolphin, this is not a loss of clarity. It is the moment the world becomes vibrant. A dolphin clicks softly, a gentle staccato rhythm that ripples outward like a pulse. These clicks travel far, bouncing off fish, coral, even distant rock formations. And when the echoes return, they paint the ocean with exquisite detail, the outline of a fish's fin, the curve of a nearby companion, the sweep of a sandy seafloor. This is not sight as we know it. It is listening as a form of vision. But the magic lies in how slowly dolphins use this sense. Their echolocation is precise, yet unhurried. They do not flood the water with frantic bursts of sound. They send what they need, receive what returns, and glide forward with the confidence of creatures who trust their world to speak back to them. Tonight, imagine the sea as a quiet chamber, filled with soft echoes traveling like lanterns through darkness. Each returning pulse is a warm flicker on the edge of awareness. In this sensory landscape, dolphins move not with urgency, but with grace. Guided by an intelligence that does not rush toward answers, it allows them to arrive. If you listen closely, you might sense parallels to your own life. How often do we move too quickly to hear what the moment is trying to echo back to us? How often do we miss the soft outlines of things because we rush through the dark instead of allowing it to reveal itself slowly? Dolphins remind us that clarity does not always come from seeing more. Sometimes it comes from listening more deeply. As they drift through the night waters, their clicks and whistles blend with the hum of the deep. They navigate by patience, by trust, by an understanding that the world speaks in returning echoes if we allow ourselves to pause long enough to hear them. The pod moves forward, unhurried, wrapped in layers of sound that guide them gently through the shifting blue, and we move with them, learning how to listen our way through the dark. A dolphin alone is graceful. A dolphin with its pod is something deeper, a small piece of an oceanic constellation, moving with a harmony that feels almost musical. Tonight, as the moon casts a soft path across the water, the pod travels as one. Dozens of bodies glide through the same current, each responding to subtle cues. A shift in speed, a brush of a fin, a faint whistle that rises toward the surface like a bubble. This togetherness is not orchestrated. No leader barks orders. No hierarchy forces alignment. Instead, the pod flows like a single breath, expanding and contracting with gentle rhythm. This sense of belonging is essential to dolphins. They are highly social, forming lifelong bonds that hold their world together. They hunt as a team, raise young collectively, and rest in coordinated patterns. Even their play, those spirals and leaps we witnessed earlier, is shared, the joy rippling through the group like an underwater breeze. As you picture them now, imagine yourself drifting among them. The water is warm, buoyant, steady. Dolphins glide on either side of you, moving close enough to sense their presence, but never so close as to disturb the calm. Their motions reassure, their sounds settle, their closeness eases worry the way a soft hand eases a tightened chest. In the pod, no one is left behind. No one is rushed. No one is unseen. The world beyond the ocean often pushes us to move independently, to hold our weight alone. But dolphins show us how natural it is to lean into community, not in urgency or chaos, but in quiet companionship. Their togetherness is not loud, it is not demanding, it is simply present, like a tide that never fails to return. Drifting with the pod, you feel the subtle choreography, a synchronized dive into deeper water, a collective turn toward the west, a slow rise toward the surface for air. Even breathing becomes something shared, a gentle communal ritual beneath the moon. And in this unity, something softens in the listener as well. You might feel the sense of isolation that accompanies human life loosen just a little. You might remember that you too are allowed to move with others, to rest with others, to share the currents that carry you. The pod continues forward, a constellation of bodies gliding deeper into the night, and we drift beside them, held in a harmony older than memory. As the night grows fuller, the sea changes. Moonlight pours across the surface in a pale, rippling sheet, illuminating a delicate shift in the water below. The dolphins sense it instantly. This is the hour when small fish rise toward the surface, drawn by cooler temperatures and the safety of dim light. The pod turns, their motions aligned without a word. They head toward familiar feeding grounds, stretches of water they have returned to for generations. These places are shaped not by territory or ownership, but by memory, rhythm, and the subtle cycles of prey that move like drifting shadows beneath the waves. Unlike the dramatic hunting scenes shown in traditional documentaries, dolphin feeding at night is gentle. There is no rush, no frenzy. The pod slows as they approach the shimmering cloud of fish, which shifts shape as if breathing. The dolphins respond with soft clicks, using sound to sense the school's structure, then approach with slow coordination. One dolphin circles wide, guiding the fish inward. Another swims beneath, encouraging them upward. The group moves like a tightening spiral, calm and deliberate. When they finally take turns dipping into the concentrated cluster of fish, the movements are fluid, almost meditative. There is a wisdom in this unhurried method, an understanding that abundance in nature is often found by working with the environment, not against it. As you imagine this moonlit scene, notice the quiet beauty in how the dolphins move. The glimmer of silver fish scattering like flecks of starlight, the silhouettes of sleek bodies gliding through beams of underwater light, the soft disruptions on the surface as dolphins momentarily rise to breathe. Feeding is often portrayed as a moment of survival, but here, it feels like a moment of harmony, a conversation between predator, prey, and the sea that holds them both. For listeners, this scene invites a reflection of its own. How often do we approach our needs with urgency rather than patience? How often do we forget that sustainability in nature and in life emerges from balance, not pressure? The dolphins finish slowly. The fish disperse. The water grows still again. The pod drifts forward, satisfied, leaving the feeding grounds exactly as they were found. Peaceful, moonlit, and quiet. The night is far from over. The deep blue still has stories to tell. If ever there were a creature that embodied the word effortless, it would be the dolphin. Watching them swim is like watching a brushstroke glide across an endless canvas, smooth, unbroken, graceful beyond intention. Tonight, imagine yourself suspended in warm, clear water. You are weightless, held, supported. A dolphin passes nearby, and you notice how its body moves in slow waves from head to tail. There is no strain, no sharp motion. Instead, energy flows through it the way wind flows through tall grass. Dolphins are designed for this fluidity. Their bodies curve with purpose, tapered at both ends, muscular in all the right places, flexible where it matters most. But beyond anatomy, there is something almost spiritual in the way they swim. It is as if the water recognizes them, welcomes them, and makes room for their passage. Their movement teaches a quiet lesson. We use far more energy resisting our world than moving with it. As you watch them navigate the open sea, you notice how they choose their speed carefully. They accelerate when necessary, but most of the time, they glide. They let currents carry them. They draft behind one another to save energy. Swimming lightly is not laziness, it is intelligence, a deep understanding of when effort matters and when surrender serves better. Picture now a dolphin turning beneath you, twisting in a slow spiral that sends flecks of bioluminescent plankton sparkling into the water like drifting stars. Its motion is not meant to impress. It is simply the natural expression of a creature completely at ease in its environment. As the spiral widens, another dolphin joins, mirroring the movement, then another. Soon the pod is drawing circles of shimmering light beneath the surface, a soft choreography written in glowing trails. This is grace. Not perfection, but presence. In human life, we often equate movement with productivity, forgetting that motion can also be play, rest, or expression. But dolphins remind us that moving lightly, physically, emotionally, mentally, is not only possible, but wise. The pod slows again, returning to long, calm glides. Their silhouettes stretch beneath the moonlit surface, slipping in and out of shadow as if they are part of the water itself. Tonight, their swimming becomes a kind of meditation, yours to witness, yours to feel, yours to carry with you long after this moment drifts away. To the untrained eye, it seems dolphins are always moving under their own power, swimming, diving, leaping. But the truth is gentler. Much of their movement is shared with the sea itself. Currents are their quiet companions. Imagine drifting deeper into the night ocean. The water cools slightly, and you feel a subtle pull, almost like a long exhale brushing against your skin. This is a current, a river within the sea, moving with patient consistency. Dolphins sense these ribbons of motion instinctively. They know which ones carry warmth, which ones carry food, which ones carry them home. Unlike humans, dolphins do not fight the currents. They do not demand control. Instead, they slip into alignment with the water, letting it handle part of the journey. Tonight, watch as the pod adjusts its course. A slight angle of the body, a shift of the tail, and suddenly they're gliding faster with less effort. The current holds them, cradles them, carries them like a soft underwater breeze. There is a quiet intelligence in this surrender, not resignation, but cooperation. Currents shape their migration patterns, guide them across distances, and help them conserve precious energy. By trusting the water's direction, dolphins preserve their own strength, allowing them to play more, nurture their young, and navigate with calm clarity. As we picture this scene, consider the currents in your own life. They may not be made of water, but they exist, the natural flows that move you with less resistance. Moments when things align, when ease replaces effort, when you feel carried instead of burdened. Dolphins teach us to lean into such currents, not out of laziness, but out of wisdom. Beneath the moon, the water glimmers faintly, revealing subtle streaks of motion. The pod glides through them, bodies relaxed, letting the sea do its ancient work. Each dolphin rises for breath only to drift back down again, allowing the current to continue guiding their path. The ocean does not hurry, and tonight, neither do they. You might feel your own breath soften as you imagine this slow, drifting journey. You might sense that small part of yourself longing to release control, to trust the movement around you, to rest in something larger. As the current carries the pod into deeper blue, their silhouettes blend into the shadowed water. They move quieter now, almost invisible, almost dreaming. Ahead, stillness awaits, and we will follow them into it. As night deepens over the open sea, the world beneath the surface grows quieter. Not silent. The ocean is never silent, but hushed, softened, as if every creature recognizes the need for gentleness. It is in this dim, blue-black realm that dolphins experience one of the rarest things in their active, playful lives: stillness. Imagine drifting down with them into deeper water. Light fades into soft shadow, then into something darker, muted, dreamlike. The surface above becomes a distant shimmer. Within this twilight zone, a dolphin slows its motion until its body seems suspended in place, held effortlessly by the lift of the water. Dolphins cannot sleep the way humans do, not fully, not completely. One half of their brain rests while the other remains awake, aware enough to surface for breath, alert enough to stay connected to the pod. Yet in these moments, when their bodies drift through deeper layers of the sea, they enter a state that resembles dreaming, slow, floating, restful. Picture one dolphin now, its eye half closed, body gently rocking in the water's subtle movements. It drifts upward slightly, then downward again, like a leaf caught in a calm breeze. The surrounding water grows warmer as it settles into a layer of gentle thermocline. The ocean cradles it, and for a moment, effort disappears completely. Nearby, other pod members also slow their movement. They remain close, always close, drifting within a shared envelope of safety. Their breathing becomes rhythmic, soft puffs at the surface before they sink again into the muted blue. Together, they create a kind of underwater lullaby. Exhale, drift. Exhale, drift. There is a lesson here, too subtle for words but clear enough for the heart. Rest does not always require total stillness. Sometimes it is enough to simply loosen your pace, soften your grip, and be held by the world around you. Humans often misunderstand rest as an absence of work, of motion, of responsibility. But dolphins show another way. Rest as a state of gentle awareness, where the mind quiets without shutting down, where safety is shared, and where stillness can exist even while drifting. As you imagine this suspended world beneath the surface, you may feel your own thoughts slow. Edges blur. Tension settles like sand returning to the seafloor. The ocean becomes a cradle, and you become a small part of it, breathing in time with the dolphins as they float through their quiet half-dreams. Above them, the moon pulls a soft sheen across the waves. Below, the night grows deeper, softer, calmer, and the pod continues drifting, held by the stillness that only the ocean can provide. Every journey dolphins make, from feeding grounds to resting places to the warm nurseries where calves are born, is guided by paths older than any map. These routes are not marked by signs or maintained by memory alone. They are written into the water itself, shaped by temperature, current, geography, and the quiet inheritance of generations. Tonight, imagine following a pod of dolphins as they travel along one of these ancient water roads. They move in a slow, deliberate line through deepening blue. The water around them grows cooler, signaling a shift in current. The seabed beneath dips gently, revealing a long underwater valley sculpted thousands of years ago by shifting tectonic plates. To a human eye, these clues would be invisible. To dolphins, they are a language. A mother dolphin moves at the pod's center, her calf close beside her. The calf mimics her movements, rising, dipping, turning with the same unhurried confidence. It does not understand the path yet, but it feels it. It is learning the ocean the way children learn the world, by being carried through it with trust. Marine biologists once wondered how dolphins could navigate vast distances with such accuracy. Only through years of study did they begin to understand. Dolphins read water the way humans read landscapes. A slight shift in salinity sends a message. A current that tightens indicates a familiar channel. Even the songs of distant whales can signal that they are on the right course. The ocean is full of signposts, but only for those who know how to listen. As the pod travels, the moonlight reaches down in pale ribbons, illuminating their gentle formation. They are not rushing. Migration for dolphins is not a race, but a slow procession, a blending of purpose with presence. They stop when they need to. They drift when the water offers to carry them. They adjust their path with small, almost imperceptible movements. Consider how different this is from human travel, so often defined by urgency, arriving, departing, reaching, achieving. Dolphins show us that movement can be calm, purposeful, and deeply intuitive, guided not by pressure, but by an attunement to the world itself. The path eventually widens, opening into warmer waters. Here the dolphins slow, sensing safety and abundance. They have arrived, though not at a destination in the human sense. They have reached a place the ocean chose for them, a resting ground held in ancient memory. Their journey continues tomorrow, but for now, the night holds them, and the water writes new stories around their drifting shapes. The open sea can be vast and unpredictable, but along the gentle coastlines where sunlight penetrates easily, the ocean becomes something different, a sanctuary of warmth, clarity, and belonging. These shallow waters are where many dolphin pods spend their quietest hours, and where the rhythm of their simple lives becomes even softer. Tonight, imagine approaching a wide coastal bay with the pod. The water shifts from deep indigo to a lighter turquoise, then to a soft, glowing green. Sunlight, even after sunset, lingers longer here, refracting through the sandy bottom to create rippling patterns that dance across the dolphins' bodies. In these shallows, dolphins find more than warmth. They find space to raise their young, rest without fear, and engage in the kind of gentle social interaction that strengthens bond after bond. The water here is calm enough for calves to practice swimming beside their mothers, learning the balance of motion and buoyancy in a place that feels like a cradle. Watch a mother dolphin now, her calf tucked close to her side. She moves slowly, deliberately, guiding it through the shifting patches of light. Every now and then, she nudges it, not to correct, but to reassure. The calf responds with tiny whistles, higher in pitch than the adults, like soft notes of curiosity. Elsewhere in the bay, a group of older dolphins rest side by side. They drift in a loose circle, half alert, half dreaming. Occasionally, one rises for a breath and slips back down, disturbing the sand below in a faint cloud that drifts lazily away. Nothing in this scene demands urgency. Everything flows, everything softens. The shallows are also places of learning. Dolphins practice gentle forms of communication here, touching fins, mirroring movements, sharing slow spirals that strengthen trust. These behaviors may appear simple, but they create a foundation for complex cooperation in deeper waters. The warmth of the shallows mirrors a universal truth. Creatures thrive where the world feels safe enough to rest, explore, and grow without fear. As you drift in this calm bay with the pod, notice how your own breath changes. The water is warmer here, the pace slower, the environment more welcoming. It is easy to imagine yourself floating just beneath the surface, wrapped in shimmering light, letting tension melt away like grains of sand slipping through gentle waves. The night deepens, but the shallows remain protective, a softly illuminated refuge. The pod settles here for a time, and so do we. In the dolphin world, motherhood unfolds not through words or rules, but through presence, a steady, patient companionship that shapes a young dolphin's entire understanding of life. To observe a mother dolphin is to witness one of the ocean's quietest, most enduring forms of wisdom. Tonight, imagine a mother and calf drifting through warm, calm water. The calf stays close, brushing against her side in small, rhythmic touches. These subtle contacts are not accidental. They are a language of reassurance, Each gentle nudge says, "I am here. You are safe. The world is wide, but we explore it together." The mother dolphin teaches not by instructing, but by embodying. She demonstrates how to rise for breath with ease, how to glide without wasting energy, how to listen for the faint return of echoes in the dark. The calf imitates these motions with charming clumsiness, wobbling slightly as it tries to match her graceful arcs. Patience is woven into every moment. Dolphins do not rush their young. The ocean, after all, moves at its own pace, and so do they. A mother dolphin waits when her calf lingers. She circles when it grows distracted. She slows when it grows tired. Her life becomes not a race ahead, but a gentle orbit around the small life entrusted to her. Other females in the pod help as well. Aunties, older siblings, companions. Their presence forms a protective circle around the young, a soft constellation of bodies offering safety through proximity. In dolphin society, child rearing is communal, shaped by empathy and shared responsibility. As you picture this maternal world, something in your own body may soften. We often imagine independence as the ultimate goal, forgetting that every creature, human or dolphin, learns through connection first. Before strength comes trust. Before exploration comes safety. Before thinking comes the reassurance of being held in a calm, attentive presence. Watch now as the mother leads her calf toward a patch of shimmering sand. She pauses, allowing it to explore the shifting shapes on the seafloor. The calf clicks experimentally, receiving echoes that return with new textures, new meanings. Every discovery feels safe because she is close enough for their fins to touch. This is the quiet wisdom of a mother dolphin. Life does not need to be pushed. Growth does not need to be forced. Love can be as simple as staying near. As the night settles more deeply over the ocean, the mother guides her calf into a slower glide. Their silhouettes merge with the darkening water, side by side, moving with the timeless rhythm of trust. For dolphins, communication extends far beyond sound. Their clicks and whistles form a rich underwater language, but there is another form of expression equally important, the language of gentle touch. Tonight, imagine drifting close to a pod as they swim in a loose, relaxed formation. Every so often, one dolphin glides past another, brushing its side with a fin. The gesture is soft, deliberate, unmistakably affectionate. These touches carry meaning. I'm here. You're part of my world. We belong to the same flow. Scientifically, these touches reinforce social bonds, strengthen alliances, and reduce stress. Emotionally, in the way we humans can't help but interpret nature, they feel like moments of quiet companionship. Dolphins do not embrace as humans do, but their touches echo the same intention. Connection. Picture two dolphins now, swimming almost in parallel. One accelerates slightly, sweeping its dorsal fin along the other's back. The contact is brief but significant. The touched dolphin responds with a gentle curve of its body, as if returning the sentiment in a language made entirely of motion. Touch also keeps the pod synchronized. This is especially important when they swim close together in deep, dark waters where visibility is limited. A light brush becomes a reminder, I'm on your left. A nudge becomes, turn with me. A lingering contact becomes, stay close. But beyond practicality, there is tenderness in it. For dolphins, touch is a form of presence, a reassurance that no one drifts alone. As you imagine this tactile world, You may sense something resonate inside yourself. Humans, too, are wired for gentle contact, though life often pulls us into distance. We shake hands, pat shoulders, hug briefly. But the quiet, sustaining touches, those that say I'm here without words, can become rare. Dolphins remind us how grounding simple, intentional touch can be. Watch as a young dolphin approaches an elder, pressing its head lightly against the older one's side. The elder remains still, allowing the contact, acknowledging it. No words, no sound, yet the moment feels complete. All around them, the pod continues to drift, exchanging small touches that maintain cohesion and warmth. Their world is built not on dominance, but on cooperation, not on noise, but on presence. As the night deepens and the pod swims on, these gentle touches become like flickers of connection in a blue, quiet world. Each one a reminder that companionship often speaks in the softest gestures. The ocean has its own calendar, one not kept by clocks or human seasons, but by shifting winds, drifting clouds, and the subtle pulse of currents. Dolphins do not resist these changes. They move with them, letting weather shape the tempo of their days. Tonight, imagine the sky above the sea thickening with soft, low clouds. The moon hides behind the gray veil, turning the water a deeper shade of blue. The wind brushes the surface in long strokes, creating gentle ripples that glide outward like a quiet invitation. The dolphins feel this shift instantly. To them, weather is not an inconvenience. It is information. A pod moving through calm water becomes even calmer still. Their breaths grow slower. Their dives last longer. The sea, preparing for a mild change, seems to hum beneath them. Dolphins attune their lives to this subtler music, the chorus of pressure, temperature, and tide. When the wind intensifies slightly, the dolphins adjust their pattern. They rise more frequently, checking the air. They communicate with low whistles that cut softly through the thickening water. There is no rush, only awareness. Weather does not force them into urgency, it guides them into presence. As light rain begins to fall, the ocean transforms. Each drop creates a tiny, ephemeral starburst on the surface. The world feels closer, quieter, as if wrapped in a fine blanket of mist. Dolphins often become more playful in this gentle rain. The sound of droplets above blends with their own clicks below, creating a layered melody that fills the water. Watch the pod now, weaving through shafts of rain-softened moonlight. Their bodies shimmer beneath the surface, sleek and shadowed. A young dolphin leaps briefly, breaking the water in a graceful arc. The splash is muted, absorbed instantly by the soft, rain-dimpled surface. Even storms do not frighten dolphins in the way they unsettle humans. Long before the sky darkens, dolphins sense pressure changes deep in the water. They move accordingly, sometimes to deeper, calmer layers where turbulence cannot reach, sometimes toward sheltered bays where they can drift without feeling the ocean's unrest. What seems like chaos to us is, for them, a shifting rhythm, a new tempo, a different breath of the sea. If you listen inwardly as you picture this, you may notice a parallel. Human life is filled with emotional weather, days of ease, days of heaviness, days of sudden changes. Dolphins teach us that the softest path forward is often to move with these conditions rather than against them. As the rain fades and the clouds begin to lift, the ocean's hymn changes again. The pod senses the shift and realigns their course, gliding into smoother, quieter water. The weather passes, the ocean settles, and the dolphins, ever attuned, continue drifting through the night. Beneath the surface of the ocean, a world of sound unfolds, a world as rich and complex as any human language, yet softer, more fluid, shaped entirely by water. Dolphins inhabit this symphony every moment of their lives, weaving through it with clicks, whistles, and pulsed calls that travel farther than vision ever could. Tonight, imagine lowering yourself deeper into the blue, where light fades but sound flourishes. At first, you hear only the steady hush of distant currents. But listen closer, and you begin to notice delicate patterns, a sequence of rapid clicks, followed by a whistle that rises gently before tapering into silence. Another set of clicks answers from afar, like a distant friend calling across a valley. This isn't noise, it's communication, thoughtful, nuanced, emotional. Dolphins use clicks primarily for echolocation, sending pulses that bounce back with information about shape, distance, and movement. But whistles serve another purpose entirely. They carry identity, intention, and feeling. Each dolphin has a signature whistle, a sound that functions like a name. Calves learn their mother's whistle long before they understand anything else. Adults exchange whistles to stay connected across vast, shifting waters. Picture the pod now as they glide through the night, their communication soft but constant. A mother emits a low, warming whistle to her calf. Two young dolphins chirp playfully as they weave through bioluminescent trails. An older male sends a pulsed call to indicate a change in direction. The ocean becomes a chamber of quiet messages, each one carried seamlessly through the water. The beauty lies in how gentle it all is. Even when dolphins communicate vital information, their voices never disrupt the ocean's calm. Their sound is woven into the water like thread into cloth, subtle, integrated, harmonious. Humans often think of communication as something to project strongly, to push outward, to make unmistakable. But dolphins show another way. A language of presence rather than pressure, of clarity without force. As you listen to this symphony in your imagination, you may feel your own mind soften. The dolphin's world reminds us that so much of communication happens in the spaces between words, in tone, in breath, in quiet signals of care. The pod continues forward, their voices rising and fading like distant bells underwater. Each call a gentle thread, each click a touch of awareness. The night is alive with sound, not loud, not overwhelming, just enough to remind us that connection can be soft and still feel complete. Every creature in the ocean plays a role in the delicate balance of life. Even dolphins, gentle, social, playful, are predators. Yet their relationship with prey is not ruthless or violent. It is a dance as old as the sea itself, performed with respect for rhythm rather than chaos. Tonight, imagine the pod drifting through deepening water, where schools of fish move like liquid clouds. The fish shimmer in metallic blues, shifting as a single body when the current stirs. Dolphins approach not with frenzy, but with intention, as though preparing for a coordinated, timeless performance. A few dolphins swim wide around the edges of the school, guiding the fish inward with slow, sweeping motions. Their clicks become the steady pulse of the dance. The fish respond instinctively, clustering tighter, forming a shape that almost resembles a living, swirling sphere. There is no panic here, only movement. Dolphins do not chase their prey recklessly. They conserve energy, working together in patterns that feel almost choreographed. One dolphin dives low, pushing the school upward. Another circles from above, keeping the formation contained. The pod tightens around the fish in a slow spiral, each dolphin taking its place with seamless grace. When the moment comes, they take turns feeding. Quick dips into the shimmering ball of fish, followed by a return to the formation. No dolphin takes more than it needs. No dolphin disrupts the pod's rhythm. Even in the act of feeding, their behavior remains marked by cooperation. The ocean here feels different, not tense, not violent, but balanced. Humans often imagine nature's predator-prey interactions as dramatic, chaotic, fueled by desperation. But dolphins reveal something gentler, a way of living that acknowledges necessity while honoring the flow of the ecosystem. As you witness this underwater dance in your imagination, notice how your own understanding shifts. Nature is not always a clash of survival. Sometimes it is a dialogue of movement, an agreement between species shaped over millions of years. When the feeding is complete, the dolphins do not linger. They allow the remaining fish to disperse, dissolving back into the dark blue water like tiny sparks. The pod regroups, brushing fins as they realign, their communication soft and reassuring. They swim on with full bellies, their bodies relaxed. The ocean around them settles again into quiet, its rhythms restored. The dance has ended, the balance remains. In the early hours of the morning, just before the darkest part of night begins to lift, the ocean reveals one of its most dazzling secrets. Bands of shimmering bioluminescent light that swirl like stars beneath the waves. Dolphins often rest during these hours, gliding slowly through this glowing realm as if drifting through a dream. Tonight, imagine the water around you beginning to sparkle. Tiny plankton ignite with blue-green light as the dolphins pass, responding to the faintest disturbance in the water. Each slow movement leaves a glowing trail behind them, soft, luminous, ephemeral. The dolphins drift through these lines of light, their bodies outlined in shimmering halos. A resting dolphin does not sleep completely. One half of its brain remains awake, guiding slow rises to the surface for breath, but the other half sinks into deep rest, allowing the body to relax, the muscles to loosen, the mind to soften. Watch now as a dolphin hovers just above the glowing seafloor. It barely moves, only a slight tilt of the fin, a gentle motion of the tail to maintain balance. Light touches its skin in delicate patterns. Its eye closes halfway, the way a tired person might close their eyes on a quiet afternoon. Nearby, the rest of the pod floats in gentle formation. Their bodies rise and fall subtly with the ocean's internal currents. Silence deepens around them, broken only by the faintest distant clicks, soft signals of presence rather than need. There is something surreal about this world of glowing rest. The ocean feels like a cathedral. The dolphins feel like lanterns drifting through a sacred quiet. Bioluminescence creates the illusion that the dolphins are dreaming the light into being. Each tiny movement paints another ribbon of brightness across the water. Yet this glow also reveals a truth. Even in the most active lives, rest finds a place. Stillness has room to unfold. Humans often imagine rest as an interruption of life, something carved out reluctantly between obligations. But dolphins show us a softer truth. Rest can be woven into motion. It can be gentle, partial, fluid, a drifting instead of a stopping. As the bioluminescent light pulses softly around the pod, you may feel the edges of your own awareness dim. The scene invites a kind of waking dream, a slow settling into calm, a quiet acceptance of rest without resistance. The night deepens, and the glow fades gradually as the dolphins drift into deeper layers of blue. Their bodies become shadows once more, soft and unhurried. Rest follows them, and we drift with it. In the vastness of the open sea, togetherness becomes not only comforting, but essential. Dolphins have long understood this. Their lives are built upon connection, upon the simple truth that traveling with others creates safety, strength, and a softness that solitary life cannot offer. Tonight, imagine the pod preparing to continue their slow journey through the night. They shift into a loose formation, not rigid or organized like birds in flight, but fluid, adaptable, shaped by the moment. One dolphin takes the lead for a while, not out of dominance, but because it feels the current most clearly. Later, another will move forward. Leadership rotates like the tide, natural, unforced, shared. As the pod begins to swim, watch how their bodies align. When one dolphin accelerates, the others follow at a similar pace. When one veers gently to the left, the group adjusts in a smooth arc. They move as though connected by invisible threads. In this togetherness, there is harmony rather than hierarchy. Young dolphins learn by swimming between adults, absorbing the fluid choreography of group travel. Elder dolphins, with years of experience, sense subtle shifts in current, temperature, and magnetic field, and the pod trusts their quiet guidance. Every member contributes, not through command, but through presence. Traveling together also protects dolphins from predators. A lone dolphin would be vulnerable, but a pod, moving as one, becomes something else entirely. A single, unified being with many eyes, many senses, and a shared awareness. But beyond safety, there is emotional wisdom here, one that mirrors the unspoken needs of all social creatures. When a dolphin grows tired, the pod slows. When a calf lingers, the adults circle back. When one dolphin whistles in distress, the group gathers around it in an instant. This is care woven into movement. As you picture this collective journey, imagine yourself carried in the pod's slow, synchronized rhythm. Each dolphin's motion reinforces the others. Each breath is echoed in soft unity. You do not drift alone. You move within a constellation of quiet companionship. In human life, togetherness can feel complicated, fraught with expectations, misunderstandings, or unspoken pressures. But nature shows us a simpler version. Support offered without demand. Presence given without condition. Leadership shared instead of claimed. The pod glides through the dark water, the sea around them glowing faintly beneath the moon. Their breaths rise in soft plumes as they surface, each exhale a small beacon in the night. They continue onward, patient and unhurried, reminding us that traveling together, gently, faithfully, without rushing, is one of the oldest wisdoms life has ever known. In the deeper layers of the ocean, light begins to loosen and fade, surrendering to darkness. But sound travels farther here than anywhere else on Earth. The deep sea becomes a vast corridor of echoes, a place where messages stretch across unimaginable distances, and dolphins stay connected through the thick, quiet blue. Tonight, imagine the pod descending gradually into deeper water. The surface above grows dim, the moonlight dissolving into soft gradients of charcoal and blue. Down here, where the world feels suspended between silence and vibration, dolphins rely almost entirely on sound to understand their surroundings. A single click rings out, crisp, clear, then swallowed by the water before returning as a softened echo. Another dolphin answers with a lower whistle that trembles through the cool depths. These sounds move like threads, weaving the pod together across the darkness. The deeper the water, the farther the sound travels. A whistle can span miles. An echo can paint a picture of the unseen world. In this vast, dim corridor, dolphins find one another not by sight or scent, but by the music of returning vibrations. Their voices bounce along underwater valleys, skim the edges of submerged cliffs, and slip through canyons carved long before any living creature existed. To the dolphins, these echoes are stories. A high whistle might say, "I'm nearby." A patterned burst of clicks might say, "Turn this way." A long melodic call might express contentment, reassurance, belonging. These deep-sea conversations are not frantic. They are thoughtful, measured, spacious, like the slow tolling of bells in a cathedral made of water. As you imagine drifting alongside the pod, you may feel the strange comfort of sound that doesn't demand attention, but simply surrounds you. Even in darkness, you are not alone. Their voices create a net of awareness, a soft envelope of connection that holds the pod together as they navigate the deep. Dolphins rarely fear these depths. They understand them intimately, the pressure, the stillness, the long stretches of shadow. Down here, the world is simple. There is no distraction, no urgency, only presence. In the human world, darkness often brings uncertainty, but for dolphins, it brings clarity of another kind, the clarity that comes from listening rather than seeing. The pod continues onward, their voices echoing through the corridors like lanterns of sound, and slowly, gently, the deep begins to rise again, guiding them back toward warmer, lighter water. Their journey continues, and so do we. Every ocean holds memories, not written in books or carved into stone, but stored in the very water that moves through it. Dolphins, with their traveled routes and ancient instincts, carry these memories within them, passing them subtly from one generation to the next. Tonight, imagine the pod approaching a place they have visited countless times before. To human eyes, the ocean floor here looks no different from anywhere else. Soft sediment, scattered coral, a gentle slope sinking into darker blue. But dolphins know this place. They return to it with a familiarity that feels almost like nostalgia. A mother dolphin slows her pace, nudging her calf forward. This is one of the teaching grounds, a quiet location where the water is calm and the currents predictable. Many calves have learned their first lessons here. Many pods have rested in these protected depths. The water itself seems to hold the warmth of generations. Memory, in nature, is not always conscious. It is carried in behavior, in instinct, in the quiet repetition of something that feels right. Dolphins pass by a rocky ledge that juts into the seafloor. They turn almost imperceptibly, following a curve their bodies recognize. This same turn has been taken by their ancestors for centuries. A ridge overhead blocks stronger currents. A valley below hums with the steady frequency of stable water. These subtle features form a map written long before language existed. The calf explores cautiously, clicking in short bursts as it learns how echoes behave in this familiar terrain. The mother stays close, offering soft whistles of encouragement. The space feels sheltered, as though the ocean itself is holding its breath. To dolphins, these deep places are not destinations but memories made physical, places where the rhythm of life has flowed consistently enough to create trust. As you observe this scene, you might consider the deep places in your own life, moments or locations that offer calm, comfort, or clarity. Humans often forget how important such places are. Dolphins never do. They return again and again to where rest feels natural, to where learning unfolds gently, to where the world feels steady. The pod lingers for a while, drifting through the muted water. Nothing urgent happens here. Nothing needs to. This part of the ocean is a reminder of stability in a world largely defined by change. When they finally rise again, leaving the deep place behind, the calves carry new memories, not in words, but in motion, in instinct, in the felt sense of safety. The ocean remembers, and the dolphins do too. Light behaves differently in the ocean. It doesn't simply disappear, it transforms. Layer by layer, the deep blue shifts through subtle gradients, each one creating a new atmosphere, a new mood, a new world. Tonight, the pod swims through these layers as if passing from room to room in a vast underwater cathedral. At the surface, moonlight glimmers in silver threads, reflecting off gentle ripples. A little deeper, the water turns navy, the bright reflections softening into muted glow. Descend further, and you enter a world of calm cobalt, then indigo, then an almost velvety midnight blue where shapes melt into shadows. Dolphins know these layers intimately. They navigate them not by sight alone, but by feel. The density of the water, the angle of a current, the faint pressure change that signals a shift in depth. For them, each layer has a purpose. In the brighter layers, they play and socialize. In the middle layers, they travel. In deeper layers, they rest or hunt small fish that drift like quiet phantoms through the shadows. Watch as the pod travels through one such gradient now. Their bodies catch the last glimmers of moonlight, sparkling briefly before fading into silhouette. Calves stay near their mothers, enjoying the novelty of a dimmer world. Older dolphins move with practiced ease, recognizing the soft, sloping pathways where the light thins, but the water remains safe. The deeper layers bring a different kind of beauty. Without bright light, the ocean becomes contemplative, almost meditative. Sound becomes more important. Shapes become suggestions rather than definitions. The world slows. Humans rarely see this place except through the lens of cameras. But dolphins move through it daily, their lives intertwined with its quiet magic. They understand the moods of the ocean the way humans understand the moods of sky, noticing subtle changes, interpreting color as sensation rather than sight. As you imagine drifting with the pod, you may feel the same subtle unwinding. The world becomes simpler when there is less to see. Focus shifts inward. Awareness softens. Breath steadies. The dolphins glide upward again, passing through the layers in reverse, from indigo to cobalt, to navy, to silver-lit darkness. Each ascent feels like waking through a series of gentle dreams. The ocean has many floors, many moods, many shades of silence, and tonight you have slipped through them all. Water holds memory differently than land. It does not keep its stories in fixed places, but carries them in motion, in temperature, in current. in the gentle repetition of cycles that have flowed for ages. Dolphins, who live entirely within this changing archive, understand the ocean not as a blank space, but as a living history. Tonight, the pod moves through a stretch of water that their ancestors knew well. Not because it looks the same, the ocean is always shifting, but because its feel remains familiar. The temperature dips slightly, the current slows, the salinity sharpens just a little. These are not random details. They are signatures of a place the sea has shaped for centuries. Imagine the dolphins sensing this through their skin, their echoes, their internal compass. Without thinking, they adjust their speed, matching their bodies to the subtle rhythm of the region. This is the sea's memory, a continuity held not in permanence, but in pattern. As they continue forward, the water warms again. Tiny plankton drift in soft clouds, illuminated faintly by moonlight descending from above. The pod slips through this glowing haze, stirring it into shimmering spirals. The sea remembers migrations that happened thousands of years ago. It remembers storms that carved new trenches, reefs that grew and crumbled, whales that sang long before any human heard their voices. The water that touches a dolphin's skin tonight may be the same water that once carried their ancestors during ancient journeys. Memory in this world is fluid. It does not hold still, it moves. In this way, dolphins inherit not only their instincts, but their home's shifting history. Every journey they take is a continuation of a story written in currents. A story the ocean tells quietly, rhythmically, eternally. As you imagine this scene, you may feel a soft resonance inside yourself. Humans, too, are shaped by the places that hold our histories. Not always the physical spaces, but the emotional ones, the ones that taught us safety, wonder, connection. The sea reminds us that memory is not always something we hold. Sometimes it is something we move through. The pod swims on, drifting in harmony with the ancient flow. Ahead, the water darkens slightly, signaling deeper regions. Behind them, the glowing plankton settle again, their spirals fading back into the quiet. The ocean remembers, and tonight, it welcomes those who remember it in return. Life in the ocean demands flexibility, not the rigid kind born of survival, but a graceful, effortless adaptation that allows creatures to move with the shifting world rather than against it. Among all marine animals, dolphins embody this poetry most clearly. Tonight, imagine the pod entering a new stretch of water where the temperature dips, the currents narrow, and the seafloor rises subtly beneath them. The dolphins adjust immediately. Their movements become tighter, more efficient, their bodies angling slightly to ride the new flow. No panic, no hesitation, only fluid response. Adaptation for dolphins is not a struggle, but a dance. Their ancestors evolved sleek, torpedo-shaped bodies that slip through water with ease. Their skin renews so quickly that friction remains low, even after miles of travel. Their lungs collapse gently at depth to avoid pressure damage, then reinflate as they ascend. Every part of their bodies reflects the music of the sea, shaped by it, synchronized with it. Watch a young dolphin now as it mimics an older one navigating the new conditions. The elder dips lower, tests the current, adjusts. The calf copies, faltering slightly, but learning with each small correction. Teaching happens not through instruction, but through example, a passing down of instinct shaped by countless generations. But adaptation is not only physical, dolphins adjust socially as well. When food is scarce, they expand their search radius. When predators lurk, they tighten their formation. When a member of the pod is injured or tired, they slow their pace. Flexibility is part of their emotional intelligence, woven into their understanding of community. Consider how different this is from the human desire for control, to predict, to plan, to resist change. Dolphins remind us of something gentler. Change is the water we swim in. Adaptation is how we remain whole within it. As the pod continues through the shifting water, their movements begin to loosen again. The current widens. The pressure lifts. The seafloor drops away. Once more, their swimming becomes relaxed, wide and fluid, as if the challenge from moments ago never existed. The ocean changes. They change with it. And in the seamlessness of that response lies a quiet, enduring beauty. The night water settles into a calmer rhythm, and the pod drifts forward into it, shaped by the world, shaping it in return. Cooperation among dolphins is not loud or commanding. It is soft, instinctive, and beautifully understated, woven into the very fabric of how they move through the ocean. In their world, collaboration is not a strategy. It is a way of being. Tonight, imagine the pod gliding through warm, open water. The sea is calm, the moon hangs low, and each dolphin moves as though guided by the same silent breath. Cooperation reveals itself in small gestures, a gentle turn, a shared pace, a subtle whistle signaling a shift in direction. One dolphin notices a faint movement below, perhaps a stray fish or a drifting patch of seaweed carried by a current. Without alarm, it emits a soft series of clicks. The sound travels outward, reaching the others like ripples across a still pond. Immediately, the pod adjusts. They tighten formation slightly, aligning themselves in a slow, graceful arc. No leader barks orders. No hierarchy dictates action. Every dolphin simply responds to the shared rhythm. This quiet harmony extends to other moments as well. When a young dolphin wanders too far, adults drift closer, forming a loose barrier that guides it gently back. When an elderly member tires, the pod slows, letting the ocean's pace mirror the needs of its oldest traveler. There is no frustration, no impatience, only presence. Cooperation also appears when the pod approaches difficult terrain. In rocky shallows, dolphins swim in staggered positions, ensuring no one becomes trapped. In deeper regions with low visibility, they check on one another through occasional clicks and whistles, soft, steady lanterns of sound that reveal who is near and who may need support. As you drift with them, you may feel a subtle shift within yourself. Human life often frames cooperation as compromise or obligation, but dolphins reveal a gentler truth. When care becomes habitual, effort disappears. What remains is flow. Picture now a moment of shared joy. 3 dolphins rising together in a slow, synchronized leap. Their bodies curve through the air, water cascading in silver arcs before they slip back beneath the surface. It is not planned. It is simply born from togetherness. The pod swims on, weaving their individual currents into one shared motion. Every flick of a fin seems to say, "We move better when we move together." In this quiet cooperation, there is wisdom. And in that wisdom, a peace that drifts through the water long after the pod has passed. The ocean is vast, but even within its immensity, there are places that feel like refuge, soft pockets of safety formed by geography, temperature, and gentle currents. Dolphins know these sanctuaries intimately. They seek them not out of fear, but for rest, renewal, and the quiet settling of their inner world. Tonight, imagine the pod approaching one such sheltered cove. Rocky outcrops rise on either side like guardians. The water here is warmer, calmer, infused with fine sand that moves slowly in pale swirls. The waves soften as they enter, reduced to gentle pulses that fold over themselves. The dolphin's pace changes immediately. They slow, as if recognizing the cove the way a traveler recognizes a familiar home. Their bodies relax. Their communication softens. Even the calves seem to sense the shift, swimming closer to the adults as they drift deeper into the protected bay. Shelter in the sea is not about hiding. It is about harmony. Within this quiet pocket, the pod rests more openly. Some dolphins float near the surface, eyes half closed, rising every few minutes for breath. Others explore the sandy seafloor, stirring trails of sparkling grains that drift upward like underwater smoke. The environment itself feels nurturing, an embrace of warm water and gentle motion. Here, the dolphins engage in social grooming, rubbing their bodies lightly against one another, exchanging soft touches that reinforce trust and bonding. This behavior strengthens their emotional ties, reminding each member of their place within the pod's quiet constellation. The sheltered cove also provides safety from stronger currents. The rocks form natural barriers that break the flow, creating a cradle for rest. Dolphins positioned near the edges listen to the shifting water outside, aware but untroubled. The world beyond the cove is vast, but in this moment, they need only the peace that surrounds them. As you imagine drifting within this sanctuary, you may feel a similar softening. Humans rarely allow themselves to seek refuge, not because the world lacks it, but because we forget its importance. We push through currents instead of stepping aside. We forget that a pause can heal. The dolphins remind us, every journey needs a sheltered place. Every life needs moments of protected quiet. When the pod leaves the cove, they do so without hurry, slipping back into the open sea refreshed. The shelter remains behind them, unchanged, waiting for the next night when tired travelers return. Dolphins know the tides intimately. They feel the subtle pull of the moon in their bones, sense the shifting water as naturally as breath, and understand that fighting the sea's motion is unnecessary. Instead, they allow the tides to lead them, gracefully, willingly, trusting the water's ancient wisdom. Tonight, picture the moon rising higher, pulling at the ocean with its quiet silver force. The tide begins to change, drawing water outward in a slow, steady sweep. The dolphins feel it instantly. Their movements align with the shifting flow, bodies angling gently as they ease into the current. There is no resistance, only acceptance, only flow. As the tide accelerates, the pod moves with it, gliding as though carried by invisible hands. Their speed increases without effort. Their bodies remain relaxed, silhouettes drifting like pale brushstrokes across the darkening blue. Letting the tide lead does not mean surrendering completely. Dolphins remain attentive, adjusting their positions, staying close to the safer regions of the current. But they do not impose their own pace onto the sea. They adapt, they listen, they allow themselves to be moved. In this, there is deep wisdom. Humans often struggle against the tides of life, trying to control timing, outcomes, direction. We push when the world asks us to pause. We resist when the world offers to carry us. Dolphins live differently. They understand that some moments require effort, while others invite release. Watch now as the pod drifts along the outgoing tide. A calf nestles closer to its mother, feeling the gentle acceleration of the water. Older dolphins shift in slow synchrony, their fins cutting through the surface with quiet elegance. The ocean guides them through familiar routes, over sandy plains marked with wavering patterns, through shallow beds where seagrass bends in slow choreography, and past coral structures glowing faintly beneath the moonlit water. The tide eventually softens, and so do the dolphins. Their pace returns to a relaxed glide. The mother surfaces for breath, her calf following with a small spray of mist. Their exhalations echo softly across the quiet sea. There is a lesson folded inside this simple drift. Not every moment requires steering. Not every path must be forced. Sometimes the world offers to lead, and all we must do is ride its gentle pull. As the tide settles and the ocean grows still again, the pod continues forward, moving with a grace shaped not by control, but by trust. Every life in the ocean, from the smallest drifting plankton to the largest migrating whales, follows a cycle shaped by salt water and sunlight. Dolphins are no exception. Their lives unfold in patterns that echo the sea's rhythms. Patterns so enduring that they feel like stories written directly into the water. Tonight, imagine following a dolphin from birth to maturity, watching its place in the ocean's long, looping cycle. It begins in warm shallows, where sunlight breaks into sparkling ribbons and the water feels like a cradle. A newborn calf stays close to its mother, learning to breathe, swim, and feel the ocean with a mixture of curiosity and comfort. As it grows, the dolphin learns the pod's rituals, rising for air in synchronized intervals, communicating through soft whistles, navigating by sound. It discovers how to hunt with patience instead of urgency, how to drift with the currents rather than resist them, and how to rest in half sleep while staying alert enough to survive. The cycle continues as the young dolphin becomes a confident adult. It learns migration routes, understanding instinctively when to travel deeper or seek warmer water. It becomes part of the pod's social fabric, supporting the young, respecting the elders, sharing the quiet teamwork that keeps everyone safe. In time, it may become a parent, passing down the same lessons: how to feel the tide, how to listen to the sea, how to stay connected even in darkness. The cycle repeats, not mechanically, but with fluidity, shaped by the ever-changing ocean. Eventually, even dolphins reach the end of their cycle. An older dolphin may slow down, its movements less precise, but full of the same gentle wisdom. The pod stays close, adjusting their pace, offering presence rather than pity. The elder's final days are spent drifting in familiar waters, carried by the same currents that once carried it as a calf. When it finally leaves the cycle, the ocean receives it quietly, folding the life back into the water that shaped it. And then the cycle continues, with new calves born in the warmth of shallow bays, new journeys beginning under moonlit waves. As you picture this life unfolding, you may feel a sense of continuity, a reminder that all living beings flow through patterns of growth, rest, learning, and return. The dolphin cycle is simply more fluid, more forgiving, more aligned with the natural rhythms that shaped the world long before humans walked its shores. In salt and sun, life continues, and in that continuation, there is peace. There comes a moment each night when the ocean grows quieter than usual, not silent, but deeply hushed, as if the entire wild world takes a long, steady breath. Dolphins feel this quietness. They settle into it the way a tired traveler sinks into soft sand. Tonight, imagine the pod gliding into this deep stillness. The waves flatten, the wind softens, the sky turns a velvety blue, interrupted only by faint stars trembling on the horizon. The sea becomes a mirror, reflecting the night back upon itself. The dolphins slow almost in unison. Their movements become more fluid, more subdued. Even their communication softens, whistles fade, clicks space farther apart, and the pod drifts closer together, drawn by the comfort of presence. This is the hour when the ocean feels suspended. Time stretches, thoughts loosen. The night becomes a kind of shelter. The dolphins' bodies move with near effortless calm, each glide extending longer than the last. Calves tuck themselves closer to their mothers, feeling the safety of the pod's collective rhythm. Older dolphins drift slightly apart, enjoying the deep, introspective quiet that the wild rarely offers during the day. Far below, faint traces of bioluminescence shimmer in lazy spirals. Above, the moon casts pale pathways across the water, illuminating the dolphin silhouettes as they rise for breath. Their exhalations are soft, unfurling into the air like small clouds dissolving in slow motion. In this quiet wildness, the ocean feels almost like a living heartbeat, slow, steady, comforting. This moment of quiet is more than rest. It is connection to the ocean, to one another, to the slow, ancient rhythm that carries them through life. As you drift through this stillness with the pod, you may feel something deepen within your own awareness, a sense that quiet is not emptiness, but nourishment, a reminder that stillness has texture, temperature, and depth, a recognition that the wild is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is gentle enough to lull even the most restless mind. The dolphins continue their slow glide long into the night, their bodies becoming shadows against an ever-softening sea. No urgency pulls them forward. No danger presses close. Only the quiet wild, holding them in its vast, tender expanse. The night settles, the water calms, and the ocean becomes a cradle once more. The human world often races ahead of itself. Layers of noise, deadlines, expectations, all moving at a pace that leaves little room for quiet. But dolphins, creatures shaped by tide and breath, offer a different example. Their lives are simple, not because they lack complexity, but because they move with intention, presence, and ease. Tonight, imagine the pod slowing beneath a pale moon. The water around them glows faintly, touched by starlight and drifting plankton. Their motions become steady and unhurried, a gentle reminder that life need not be fast to be full. As the dolphins glide, their simplicity becomes clear. They prioritize connection over competition, presence over productivity. They play not to achieve, but to feel joy. They rest without apology. They listen to their inner rhythms rather than forcing themselves into the current of urgency. Even their communication reflects this. Short whistles, soft clicks, and touches of the fin. No long explanations, no overthinking, only clarity. The restless world might call such a life easy, but simplicity is not ease. It is wisdom. Dolphins navigate challenges by staying aligned with their environment. They trust their senses, their instincts, and their companions. They move together because togetherness makes the world safer, kinder, and calmer. They drift when the tide allows, accelerate when needed, and always return to rest. As you drift with them tonight, imagine applying their lessons to the human world, to pause when the moment asks for it, to choose connection over speed, to trust the natural rhythms of your life, to move gently even through difficult waters. In the quiet wild, simplicity is not a luxury. It is a way of surviving with grace. The pod rises now for a shared breath. Their exhalations float upward in soft clouds before dissolving into the night air. The sound is calming, steady, like a reminder that things need not be complicated to feel meaningful. Tomorrow will bring new currents, new movements, new rhythms. But tonight, in the quiet cradle of the sea, the dolphins live simply, and in doing so, they teach us how to come home to ourselves. At the beginning of our journey, we asked a simple question. What do dolphins remember about living simply? Something the human world seems to have forgotten. Now, as night deepens and the pod glides through the soft dark, we return to that question not to answer it, but to listen again. The dolphins move with a slowness shaped by the hour. Their breaths rise like small lanterns. Their bodies drift in a calm procession that feels almost ceremonial. The ocean around them holds an ancient quiet, as if inviting reflection. Perhaps the answer lies not in knowledge, but in rhythm. Simplicity, for dolphins, is not a philosophy. It is a way of moving through the world with presence, responding rather than reacting, drifting rather than pushing, learning rather than forcing. As you watch them now, consider the quiet lessons you've gathered, the grace of moving lightly, the strength of traveling together, the peace found in listening instead of rushing, the beauty of resting without guilt. The dolphins do not hurry through their lives. They do not carry burdens from one tide to the next. Their days unfold in cycles, breath, motion, rest, companionship, not linear, not pressured, but fluid. Returning to the question, you may sense that dolphins do not remember simplicity. They never lost it. It is humans who drifted away from the natural pace of things. As the pod rises once more to the surface, the moon paints a silver path across the water. The dolphins slip into its glow, their silhouettes moving like gentle strokes across a quiet canvas. If simplicity has an answer, it might be this moment itself, soft, unhurried, complete in its stillness. The dolphins glide onward, and the question settles quietly, like sand drifting back to the seafloor. As midnight deepens into the softer hours before dawn, the sea begins to breathe differently. The currents ease, the waves soften. Even the wind seems to pull its voice inward, leaving behind a calm that feels like the ocean exhaling. The dolphins feel this change, their bodies slow with the tides, matching their rhythm to the sea's sleepy pulse. Every glide lasts a little longer. Every turn becomes more gradual. The pod moves with the ease of creatures who know that rest is not an interruption, but a continuation of life. Imagine drifting beside them now. The water is warm, almost velvety. The moon hangs high, dim but steady, casting pale ripples of light that stretch across the dolphins' backs. Each time they surface for breath, the exhale sounds softer, as though cushioned by the night itself. In this hour, noise fades, not only from the ocean, but from the mind. Thoughts lose intensity, worries dissolve into the rhythm of breath and water. The dolphin's pace becomes your pace, slow and unforced. This is the ocean's lullaby. The pod gradually forms a loose circle, a shape often seen during their resting periods. They keep one eye open, one half of the brain alert, but everything else softens. Their clicks fade into occasional murmurs. They drift closer together, finding comfort in proximity. It is in these moments, when their pace aligns with the slowing tides, that the dolphins remind us of a truth easily forgotten. Rest is not the opposite of living. It is part of living. Humans often push themselves past the natural rhythm of their days, believing productivity must always rise. But nature teaches otherwise. Even the sea, vast and powerful, slows during the quiet hours. Even dolphins, playful and energetic, drift gently when the world grows dark. The tide will rise again. Energy will return. Motion will quicken. But not now. Now is the time for softness. As the dolphins drift together in a slow circle, the water seems to cradle them, rocking them with a rhythm that feels ancient and maternal. Their breaths rise and fall in a shared cadence, as though the entire pod is dreaming the same quiet dream. The tides slow their breathing, and so do we. Stillness in the ocean is unlike stillness anywhere else. It is not the absence of movement, but the refinement of it. The ocean smoothing itself into long, gentle motions, like a hand brushing wrinkles from a bedsheet. Tonight, the dolphins drift into this stillness, sharing it with the sea in a way that feels almost ceremonial. Imagine the water around them darkening into a velvety blue-black. The stars above shimmer faintly, their reflections trembling on the surface. The ocean holds its breath, not in silence, but in softness. Every sound becomes elongated. The distant hum of a current, the occasional quiet click from a dolphin, the slow beat of your own heartbeat syncing with the rhythm around you. The dolphins are barely moving now. A gentle flick of a tail, a small shift of a fin. They drift, maintaining just enough motion to stay balanced. Their eyes half close. Their bodies grow heavy with rest, yet remain buoyant in the cradle of the sea. In this shared stillness, something subtle unfolds, a sense of unity between the dolphins and the ocean, as if both are participating in the same quiet ritual. Stillness is not emptiness. It is fullness without motion. Humans often misunderstand this. We fear the quiet, thinking it means nothing is happening. But here, in the company of dolphins, stillness becomes a place of restoration, a place where energy gathers rather than fades. A mother and calf drift especially close. The calf's movements are slow but curious, reaching out occasionally to brush its mother's fin. The connection between them is steady, calm, and warm. They share the stillness the way two people might share a blanket on a cold night. Elsewhere in the pod, an older dolphin floats just beneath the surface, rising every few minutes for breath. Each exhale sends a soft ring of ripples outward, adding a gentle heartbeat to the night. You might notice your own breathing falling into the same pattern. Long inhales, longer exhales, the space between thoughts widening. The ocean's stillness becomes your own. This is the kind of quiet that the modern world rarely offers. Deep, soft, unbroken. Stillness shared with the sea is not the end of a journey. It is one of its gentlest chapters. And tonight, wrapped in this watery quiet, the dolphins drift deeper into rest. As the night reaches its softest point, a simple truth reveals itself. Not through words, but through the graceful, unhurried motions of the dolphins beneath the waves. Simplicity is not the absence of complexity. It is the presence of clarity. Tonight, the pod moves slowly through the dark, their bodies illuminated by faint ribbons of moonlight. They drift in loose formation, guided not by urgency, but by familiarity, the familiar currents, the familiar rhythm of breath, the familiar presence of one another. This simplicity is the essence of their world, not a lack, but an alignment. Dolphins do not wonder whether they are doing enough. They do not chase expectations. They do not measure their lives in milestones. They move, rest, play, communicate, and trust the flow of the ocean around them. Their truth is embodied in their existence. Live with presence, breathe with intention, move with the world, not against it. As you drift with the pod, imagine yourself shedding layers of noise and expectation. The tide carries away unnecessary thoughts. The moonlight softens the edges of your mind. What remains is clear, quiet, and honest. A young dolphin swims ahead, breaking the surface in a gentle arc. The splash is small, barely audible, yet it echoes with freedom. Another dolphin follows, rolling sideways beneath the water as if enjoying the soft pressure of the sea against its skin. Even in rest, there is joy. Even in stillness, motion exists. The dolphins continue forward, their shapes blending into the deep blue. Their whistles grow faint, but their presence remains steady, like a heartbeat in the vastness. As dawn approaches in the far distance, the truth becomes even clearer. Life gains its meaning not from speed, but from connection. Not from noise, but from rhythm. Not from striving, but from simply being. This is the truth dolphins have lived for millions of years, a truth carried gently beneath the waves, waiting for anyone willing to drift slowly enough to feel it. The night has moved far beyond its peak, slipping into the tender hours when darkness softens and the world grows hushed. The moon hangs low, its silver touch thinning slowly as if preparing to rest. Across the water, the last strands of light shimmer faintly, soft, wavering reflections that mark the boundary between night and the earliest hints of dawn. The dolphins sense this transition long before the sky brightens. Their movements slow even further, as if the ocean itself has told them to settle. They drift through water that glows dimly, their silhouettes passing through fading streaks of moon-washed silver. Tonight, imagine floating just beneath the surface with them. The world around you grows still. The surface ripples gently above your head, catching the last fragments of starlight like tiny pieces of glowing dust. Each time a dolphin rises to breathe, the soft mist of exhale blurs the air, dissolving as quietly as it arrived. This is the hour when the ocean exhales its final quiet before dawn. The dolphins do not push forward now. They allow themselves to linger in the softness, savoring the slow cadence of the night. Some drift side by side, brushing fins in subtle gestures of connection. Others float just below the surface, letting the water cradle them. The last light touches their backs in faint arcs, painting them in soft silver, like brushstrokes fading from a canvas. In human life, such moments exist too. The last gentle minutes before sleep, before morning routines, before returning to full awareness. These are moments rich with calm if we choose to meet them slowly. The ocean shows us how. As the moon sinks lower, the faint light fractures across the waves, scattering like quiet confetti. The water becomes darker, deeper, warmer again. The dolphins release a final shared whistle, a soft, drifting note that dissolves into the night like a farewell to the light itself. The world grows dim. the water grows warm, and the night enters its final cradle. The pod drifts into that comfort, wrapped in the last light that slips gently from the sky. There is a moment, just before dawn, when even the currents seem to relax, when the ocean's movements stretch into long, soft flows that feel like they're guiding every creature toward rest. Dolphins recognize this shift, letting the water lead them the way a gentle hand might guide a sleepy child toward bed. Tonight, imagine sinking deeper into the slow, warm current alongside the pod. The water moves with the softness of fabric drifting in the wind, so gentle you barely feel it, yet steady enough to carry you forward. The dolphins fall into this rhythm effortlessly. Their bodies align with the flow, their tails moving only occasionally, just enough to keep balance. This current is familiar. It's the kind that often takes them back toward resting waters, toward sheltered coves or calm stretches where they can greet the coming dawn in peace. There is comfort in being carried. The dolphins understand something humans often forget. Not every journey requires effort. Some paths are meant to be floated, not fought. Some chapters of the night are meant for surrender rather than striving. As you drift with them, listen to the subtle sounds of the ocean, the muffled hum of deep water shifting, the faint pulse of distant waves, the quiet rhythm of the dolphin's breath rising into the cool air. Everything is gentle here. Everything is slow. The current bends around a hidden underwater rise, shifting direction slightly. Without thinking, the pod adjusts. A soft click echoes through the water, a simple announcement. We're turning. The group flows with the change as one, bodies gliding like shadows that have learned the ocean's language. The current grows even calmer. The water feels almost heavy with stillness, like a warm blanket settling over tired shoulders. Dolphins drift closer together, forming a soft cluster of silhouettes that move as though sharing one dream. You may feel your own breath easing as you imagine this scene. There is something instinctively soothing about being carried, being held by something larger and softer than the self. The dolphins let themselves be guided home by nothing more than water and intuition. Ahead, a sheltered bay waits, dim, quiet, perfect for rest. The night currents do their final work, guiding the pod into its warm embrace, and we drift gently with them. As the ocean settles deeper into its pre-dawn quiet, sound becomes something delicate, softened, slowed, blurred around the edges like breath on cool glass. In these hours, the dolphins' voices shift too, becoming gentle murmurs that ripple through the water like distant lullabies. Tonight, imagine descending just below the surface with the pod. The world here is still, not empty, never empty, but resting. Even the sea's own heartbeat feels quieter. Tiny organisms drift without hurry. Fish hover in near motionless clusters. The water thickens in the calm, absorbing sound like velvet. A dolphin emits a faint click. It travels outward in a small, disappearing wave, returning as a soft, rounded echo. Another responds with a low whistle, long, melodic, almost dreamy. These are not the bright, lively calls of daytime. They are whispers shared between companions, reminders that even in rest, they remain connected. The echoes stretch farther than before. In still water, sound glides with ease, moving through the sea like a glowing thread. The dolphins drift in loose formation, listening to the echo of each other's breath, each gentle pulse of sound, each small conversation that floats away into the dark. It is in these quiet hours that dolphins experience a form of communal dreaming. Their bodies move as if remembering something ancient, some story carried through generations in the rhythms of night water. Soft echoes, soft breaths, soft hearts drifting together. As you imagine drifting with them, you may feel the sea settling around you like a comforting weight, warm and slow. Thoughts that once fluttered now dim. Noise falls away. You become attuned only to the distance between one breath and the next. Occasionally, a dolphin brushes another with a gentle touch, reaffirming presence in the dark. A calf nestles between two adults, enveloped in a triangle of safety. Their echoes mingle, rising and falling like the tide's own quiet singing. This is the ocean asleep, but not silent, dreaming, but not unconscious, alive, but softly so. The dolphins continue through this velvet realm, their voices fading to faint, glowing threads. Soft echoes drift behind them like the tail of a comet, dissolving slower than thought itself. The sea holds them in warmth and stillness, and holds us too, if we allow ourselves to drift with its sleeping rhythm. Every ocean night reaches a point where motion itself feels like it is slowed to the pace of a heartbeat, steady, gentle, unhurried. This is that moment. The surface lies smooth as glass. The water below moves in long, peaceful flows. Everything, even the dolphins, begins to drift as though wrapped inside a dream. Imagine being here now. The darkness around you no longer feels vast. It feels protective, like the inside of a seashell. The dolphins float in a moon-faded cluster, their bodies rising and falling with the subtlest currents. Their breaths have become soft, their movements minimal. This is where motion becomes calm. A young dolphin rolls onto its side, drifting belly up for a moment before righting itself. Another stretches its body slowly, tail moving just enough to keep balance. These gestures are sleepy, instinctual, like a person shifting slightly under warm blankets. No one in the pod rushes. No one breaks the quiet. Everything in the water respects this final softness of night. The ocean itself seems to cradle them, the currents slow to almost nothing. The temperature steadies. Even the faint glow of distant bioluminescent organisms dims. The world is not empty. It is simply resting. As you drift here with them, your own internal rhythm may begin to mirror the sea's. A slower inhale, an even slower exhale. The kind of breath that signals the body it is safe to release tension. Far below, the deep ocean hums a low, steady frequency, nature's quietest lullaby. The dolphins respond with occasional murmurs, but these are dim, half-awake sounds, more vibrations than voices. Time loses shape in moments like this. Minutes stretch into long, soothing arcs. Awareness softens. Nothing pulls you forward. Nothing weighs you down. You are suspended, like the dolphins, between motion and stillness. As the pod drifts together, their bodies almost touching, a sense of peace radiates outward, diffusing into the surrounding water. This is the calm at the heart of the wild, rare, deep, pure. Eventually, dawn will come. Light will rise. The ocean will wake. But not yet. For now, this quiet is everything. A stillness so complete, it feels like floating inside a sigh. The dolphins remain in their shared drift, wrapped in the calm that settles over all motion. And we drift with them. The final moments before dawn belong to the ocean in a special way. The darkness thins, the water warms, and the world seems to hover in a single breath. Half night, half mourning, suspended between what is past and what will soon arrive. The dolphins float in this threshold, moving only when the sea nudges them. Their bodies glow faintly in the growing light, silhouettes softening as the horizon brightens. The night's long journey has taken them through deep waters, quiet bays, shimmering currents, and resting places hidden beneath the waves. And now, as the first pale light of dawn touches the surface, the pod rises together. Their exhalations break the air in small, silver clouds. Their fins slip gently through the water, sending soft ripples outward that fade almost instantly into stillness. Everything about this moment feels sacred, an ending and a beginning wrapped into one. The ocean begins to stir, not quickly, not loudly, but with the same slow grace that has carried this entire night. The currents gain subtle energy. The waves stretch into longer shapes. The water brightens from deep blue to soft, muted silver. The dolphins remain calm. They have known this cycle forever. They know that everything flows, night into morning, tides into tides, motion into rest, rest into motion. There is no force, no resistance, no need to grasp at what is passing or rush toward what is coming. They simply move with the world, trusting the rhythm that has guided their ancestors for millions of years. As you drift with them in this first breath of dawn, you may feel a sense of spaciousness opening within you. The lessons of the night settle gently. That presence is enough. That rest is part of living. That connection deepens in quiet. That simplicity is a kind of truth. That movement does not always require effort. That everything flows. The dolphins begin to swim with a bit more energy now, their night's rest giving way to the lightness of a new day. But even this awakening is gentle, unhurried. They move with calm momentum, gliding toward whatever the morning will bring. You too are invited into that flow, not rushed, not pulled, simply carried forward by the quiet understanding that life softens when we soften with it. As the last traces of night dissolve and the sun begins to warm the sea, we close our journey with the signature words of sleepy nature sleep. Everything flows through the wild. Sleep in that motion.